All right, so I was out at the store and I found a really good price on some St. Louis style cut pork spare ribs. And today I'm going to show you how I like to prepare and smoke some awesome St. Louis style ribs. So let's get right to it. And anytime I get ribs, I always like to go ahead, rinse this off thoroughly and then dry them. The reason I like to rinse them is because there's always plenty of bone fragments left from when they cut these ribs. The great thing about the St. Louis cut pork spare ribs is there's very minimal trimming to do on these. The only thing I'm gonna do is, if I flip this over here, I like to go ahead and just trim this last small bone off of here so I could feel it right there. I'm gonna go right on the edge. Just cut that off, square it up nicely, and then just look for any imperfections on the rack of ribs, like here. See, this is gashed, bone is cut a little bit. And if you look on this side of the rib, towards this end, you're gonna have a lot of fat here. So I like to go ahead and just cut this last bone off anyway. So I'm gonna go ahead and flip it over, get tight to that bone. I'm gonna save all the meat I can. Just cut that right off, and I'll square this off a little bit, and that should be it. Now when I'm doing pork ribs, I really like to go with the spare rib. I prefer it over a baby back just because there's a little more fat in here. It's a little more forgiving when you cook it. I find these have a little more flavor. The next thing I want to talk about is the membrane. Stop taking this membrane off. You want to leave this on. See this fat in here? Keeping this membrane on is going to keep all that fat inside here. And I'm going to show you the right way to cook this so this membrane won't even be a problem. For seasoning on this, I'm going with my SPG Classic. What this is 2 parts black pepper, 1 part kosher salt, half a part of garlic powder, and a half a part of paprika powder. I'm going to be adding a barbecue sauce to these later, so I'm not really too concerned about getting any crazy flavors on there right now. Just get a nice coating there. And another thing I want to mention, I do not like using a binder. The only time I would actually use a binder is if I was doing some turkey breast, because a turkey breast goes phenomenal with a mayo binder. And I did a video on that, so be sure to check that out as well. And the only other time I might do a binder is if I'm doing a piece of corned beef. I like to use the mustard binder, and that's just because mustard and corned beef go so well together. But for something like a brisket, a pulled pork, or these ribs, you don't need a binder. I think it's actually going to block a lot of that smoke flavor from getting onto your ribs. So I'm just going to go ahead, pat this in here, get all the edges, and look at that. You can see how nice the seasoning has stuck to the ribs. No binder needed. Check it out. So these are all set. I got my smoker all fired up, so let's get out and we'll throw these on. All right, I got this smoker up to 250 degrees, and I'm running the usual oak and maple combo. Now let's get these ribs right on the smoker. And that fatty end that I cut off earlier, that's the side you want where the heat is coming from. So I'm gonna put that here because the heat's coming this way. The other thing I like to do with these St. Louis spare ribs is just push them in a little bit, just like this, kind of scrunch them up together. This is gonna help them cook evenly. But let's get these in the smoker, close it up, so we'll let them cook. All right, got the ribs on. I'm running that thing at 250 degrees, like I said. I'm gonna let these go probably for 2 hours, and I'm gonna maintain that 250 degrees. I want a pretty low temperature at first because I want to get some nice smoke flavor on these St. Louis cut ribs. And they're probably gonna cook a little bit quicker than a full spare rib just because of the size of them. Once I got a really nice, beautiful color on these ribs, I'm gonna go ahead and pull them off, get them wrapped up with some lard, honey, barbecue sauce, let them go for another hour, and then they should be good. So I'll see you in a couple hours when I go out there and check on these ribs. All right, 2 hours in on these spare ribs. Let's take a look. Oh yeah, they're looking pretty good. See, they got a nice color already. Starting to get a little dark on this end. First, I want to check for tenderness. Getting there. Not super tender yet. For temperature, we're at 167. That's right about where we want them at this point. Just check the underside, see how this is doing, huh? Oh yeah, looking pretty good. So now all I want to do is just give these a little bit of a spritz, especially on this end over here. As you can see, it's getting a little dark. So what I got for a spritz is some vinegar and honey. So I'm gonna let these go for another half hour or so. I'm gonna come out here and give them a flip, so I'll see you then. All right, guys, it's been about another 40 minutes. Let's give these ribs a check. Oh yeah, these are looking great. See, they got a nice little bark going on here. I think these might be ready to wrap. Let me just check it for tenderness. Oh yeah, feels pretty good. Let's see what we got for temp. So for temperature, we're at 182, and I think these are ready to wrap. Now I wanted to flip them over, but let me just check underneath here. Ooh, that actually looks pretty good. I think we'll be fine with not flipping these over. The only reason I want to flip them over is to get that membrane crisp up a little bit, but as you can see here, it looks pretty good. So let's get these off and get them wrapped. All right, so I see a lot of people like to wrap their ribs up with tin foil. I'm not a big fan of that. I really prefer the butcher paper, and this is one of my favorite butcher papers to use. It's nice and wide, so you don't need to double up if you're doing something like a brisket. You don't need to run 2 sheets. So if you guys are interested in this butcher paper, I will leave a link in the description down below. But let's get this paper down so we can wrap these ribs up. Let me get those ribs. All right, guys, these ribs are super hot, so I'm gonna give you a quick look. Check that out. These are some really nice looking ribs. Let's get them down over here. Since we're doing ribs, I got some pads of lard here. I'm gonna go ahead and just throw a few of these pads right on the ribs. All right, now what I got here is a little bit of hot honey. If you guys are interested in this, I will leave a link in the description below as well. I'm gonna go ahead and put a good amount of this hot honey on there. This stuff is fantastic. It's really not that spicy because you have all the sweetness on there. The next thing I wanna add is a little bit of barbecue sauce. And I got myself some of this Raised no sugar added hickory. I really like the no sugar added barbecue sauce because a lot of times I'm either adding brown sugar or some sort of honey, and it's gonna have enough sweetness. I just want some good barbecue sauce flavor. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit of this on there. Put a good amount of this barbecue sauce on, and that should be good. Now let's go ahead, just get this thing wrapped up. Real simple. Now when you're wrapping ribs up, you wanna make sure they are nice and tight. And I like to make sure that they are meat side up when I'm finished. Now, let's get these back out on the smoker. Just like that. I'll probably let these go for about 1 more hour. That's what I think they're gonna need. Then I'm gonna pull them off, let them rest for another hour. Once these are done resting, I'll see you guys to give them a try. So these ribs are done. They smell so good right now. I let them go for another hour, hour 15, wrapped up like this. Then I pull them off. I let them rest for another hour. Here we are. Let's get this unwrapped and see how these things came out. Ooh yeah, smells so good. Feels super tender. These are gonna be so good. I love adding the barbecue sauce in there when I wrap it up because it gives it a nice chance to get a little thicker, nice and caramelized. Highly suggest giving this a try. All right, let's get these ribs, this paper out of here. Oh yeah, these are saucy ribs. Check those out, huh? Oh yeah, take a look at those. So good. Get these sliced up. All right, before I slice into these, just check them out, huh? These are some beautiful St. Louis style pork spare ribs, so good. It is time to slice into them, and I like to flip these over when I slice them. Ooh, see that membrane? Yeah, me neither. Telling you guys, leave the membrane on. Juicier ribs, come on. Why would you say no to that? But anyway, I like to flip these ribs over when I cut them. The reason being is I can easily see where I need to cut these ribs up. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut some of these ribs. Ooh, that is good. Check this out. Ooh, that is a nice looking rib. Check out the smoke ring on there, huh? Super nice, super juicy rib. I gotta give these a try. Wow, perfect. That is the perfect rib. Check out the bite. Come on. Could you ask for a more perfect bite, guys? This thing is so good. So tender. Check out the membrane. See? Bite through, not a problem, and they're still super juicy. Great smoke flavor. Remember, it was just that SPG blend, then some barbecue sauce, some of that honey. So good. Super savory because of that lard, and a little bit of sweetness with the honey. I don't really taste much heat here, but this is a delicious rib, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to give it a like. If this is your first time seeing one of my videos, make sure to subscribe to my channel right over here. I got a new video coming out every week. If you want to see another great barbecue video, make sure to check this one out over here. But once again, thank you for watching, and most importantly, get out there and smoke something good.